Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome to our election special broadcast again. On this podcast, we have been inviting people, especially those who are contesting elections, hearing their views and looking at the possible mapping of the political scene, especially in Birmingham. And it has been also great to get to hear their views from on the ground as to what people are feeling at this moment in time, especially with the backdrop of this whole genocide in Gaza. And today I have a very special guest, Shakeel Afsar, who is fighting as an independent candidate in Hall Green against a Labour incumbent who has a majority. Shakeel, as many of you know already, is a political activist who became, shall I say, infamous 5 years ago, fighting the LGBT indoctrination in his local school. This is not to say that he is an anti-LGBT person, but just somebody who was fighting the indoctrination and introduction of an aggressive curriculum that was being promoted in the local schools in Birmingham. He's also a Kashmiri activist fighting for the independence of Kashmir, politically fighting, obviously. And we welcome him on our podcast today. Assalamu alaikum, Shakeel.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you for having me and thank you for that lovely introduction.
Well, all of it is true. I've not made any of that up. You have a very colorful checkered CV.
Absolutely.
And that's why, you're standing in politics, because you are very vocal. You're a very strong personality and you don't hesitate in coming to the forefront.
Absolutely.
To fight for, social issues. And why politics? I mean, from an activist, you've now stepped into the, fighting line right into the heart of Birmingham in a very strong Labour seat. So what brought that decision on?
Well, look, for those of you who know me, since 2019, I actually supported the independent candidate who stood at that time as well against Labour.
Mm-hmm.
I've been talking and rallying against Labour at a time when it wasn't cool to do so, or it wasn't a trend to do so. I believe Labour Party has taken our people for granted, and I know this firsthand in 2019 when we reached out to them and asked them to support our Muslim sisters, our Muslim brothers, uncles, aunties, whose children were being vigorously indoctrinated by what I would only consider extremists, extremists who had their own narrative and were not, respecting the fact that we have 9 protected characteristics. And Abraham,
you're talking about the LGBT issue now.
Absolutely, yeah. So for me, it brought it back. The reason why I've decided to step into the arena is because I feel that our representation that we have is it's not representation, it's misrepresentation. So I believe the people need a voice that understands what our people want. I believe that our people need a voice where it's unreservedly will go into the corridors of power and speak for what we believe in, and not pander to political parties or a party whip. Hence the reason why we're going independent.
Okay, and obviously you've jumped on to some will accuse you of saying jumping on the bandwagon on the back of this Gaza issue, this genocide, this carnage that's going on in Gaza, where you're basically able to, evoke people's emotions and be able to represent them on that important issue. But then don't you come across as being a one-trick pony?
No, I have to disagree with you there, because with regards to the Palestine issue, again, we have the receipts. You just need to scrabble through the internet and you'll find that we've been doing protests since 2019, 20, 21, 22. This never started for us on last year in October. We've been doing this since 2019, whether it's the Kashmiri issue, whether it's the Palestine issue. And the statement, one trick pony, I have to disagree with that as well. Since I got into community issues, I realized there are a lot of issues. So I've been heavily involved with, the nitrous oxide issue, the Vagrancy Act and people begging on our streets, these vulnerable people, whether it's, the Chand Rath issue, antisocial behavior issue, Islamophobia, challenging the Hindutva extremists, challenging the LGBT extremists. So I definitely think...
You also stood up for Sikh farmers, if I remember.
We also stood up for the Kisan movement as well. So I don't think we're one-trick ponies, although there are a lot of people coming out the woodwork who I would consider our one-trick ponies, but I'm a firm believer with the work that we've put in, with the sacrifices that we've done, with the 5-day
qualifies you to
with the
run
5-day High Court trials
Yeah.
that I've sat and defended at my own cost for the community. I think my resume quite clearly states that.
Whatever happened to that? I mean, you lost a very prominent High Court case,
Yeah,
which was brought against you by Birmingham City Council.
yeah.
So what was the?
So our
end-
aim was never to win. So a lot of people don't know this. When I was given a High Court injunction on the location of our protest, where Birmingham City Council said that we should have a High Court injunction and be moved, I went to my barrister and I said to him, look, what can we do with this High Court injunction? He goes, look, you can either take it as a loss, go home, go sleep, and just listen to the, whatever the establishment says, or you can challenge this injunction. You're going to lose, but within 5 days, you will make national news on what is happening in schools, and every parent up and down the UK will know what's happening and how to protect their children.
But surely there was a huge financial penalty for going to court.
Sacrifices are needed. This
Is
is,
it?
unfortunately, sometimes somebody has to take a sacrifice. And at the time, I decided that, and I was asked on the last day of the trial as I walked out, and I was greeted by all the mainstream press, Sky, ITV, Birmingham Mail, everyone, how does it feel to lose? And I smiled and I said, lose. We never lost. My aim was never to win against a High Court case where the council has multi-million pounds of budget. My aim was to make this a national issue, and all of you, thank you to all of you that you did that for me, and I stepped
But
up.
Shakeel, being financially independent, I know you're a property developer. That's your main. Many people may not know it, but you're actually a property developer
That's right,
by
yeah.
your normal full-time job, as they say.
That's right.
And many people probably think you're a full-time protester and activist.
Yeah.
But so being successful financially, you were able to do that. And also that leads me to my next question, that it seems entering into politics has become an exclusive privilege for rich people only, because let's say if somebody's living hand to mouth, they're in a full-time job, they can't be politically active the way yourself can, in terms of amount of time that you have to give, and also the amount of resources in money that you have to commit as well, because it's not cheap fighting elections and running campaigns.
Yeah, it's absolutely not cheap. I'm in a blessed position that I had, my mother and father worked very hard to, build a business, and now me and my brother are taking it to the next level. So alhamdulillah, by the grace of Allah and the hard work of my parents, I am in a better position than many people. But your statement, as in it's only for rich people, did apply maybe 5-10 years ago. But with today's day and age, if you are, if you have the motivation, you have the determination, and you can speak and people resonate to you, there are many ways to fund your campaign. So you could do a GoFundMe page, you could, raise amongst the community. But overall, you're kind of right that you need to have resources to be able to challenge these mainstream parties, because they work in overdrive. So if you haven't got the resources, the backing, the volunteers, the donors, you are going to struggle to even put your message out. Your message might be right, your message might be correct, but unfortunately the other mainstream parties will have the ability to wash it down and silence your voice, because if you don't have the resources to amplify it, you'll be stuck in a tunnel.
Look at the Prime Minister of this country is one of the richest men in the UK.
Yeah.
You got Nigel Farage, who is obviously another full-time career politician. He's also a wealthy man.
Well, yes, absolutely.
And even if you look at the cabinet within the Tory party, it's full of rich people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I 100% agree. But for those who are driven, those who are motivated, it is hard, without a shadow of a doubt. If you have less resources, it makes it 100 times harder. But if you have that determination, you have that motivation, there is a way to do it. And this is, for me, this is why I'm getting into politics. The gap between the elite and the average working man is far apart. The average working man's voice is that drowned that nobody hears it. Nobody even considers it as valuable.
But you see, that debate is being hijacked by the far right. People like Nigel Farage, who are public school, Eton educated, rich people, claiming to be the voice of the average Joe public out there. I mean, how true is that?
Well, if you know Nigel Farage, I think you can tell what his agenda is. And I think when he means the general public, he just means his right-wing extremist followers. He's not really referring to the general public at hand, whether they're, lefties, whether they're on the right wing, whether they're centre politics. We have to be able to have a conversation where we represent everyone and not just pander to one community while isolating another community. So my standpoint on this is, as a potential representative of Whole Green, that I will endeavour to represent everyone, regardless of my personal, moral, philosophical or religious beliefs. I will be an advocate for their voice, their concerns, any discrimination that they may face, regardless of what walk of life they come from. And, we will be a voice of the people on the ground.
And I mean, what would you say about the rise of the far right, it's populism that's sweeping across Europe at the moment, and we are seeing sort of the symptoms of it here as well?
Well, I'm seeing the symptoms firsthand. If you take a stroll through my social media, the amount of right-wing, racist, Islamophobic comments that we're getting just for our accent, or just for the way that we look, or just for the way that we've got people, is absolutely disgusting. And since Boris Johnson, I believe, made the comment about letterboxes and the Conservative government, not saying that the Labour government is any better anyway, but since this is just a downhill spiral, and the stats don't lie.
It seems Islamophobia has been sanctioned now in mainstream politics as something that is acceptable to do.
You look, the facts and the stats don't lie. The highest recorded religious hate crimes over the last 4 years have been disproportionately against Muslims. And if you look at the figures, our figures are double compared to all the rest of the other religions. But bearing in mind, our community is as such that most people don't even report these Islamophobic crimes. They just think, leave it. We know how Asian communities are, ethnic minorities are. We think, just leave it. But I think it's even worse than it actually states on paper.
I'm sure it
so, is. And we've seen this with the fact that the Islamophobia is so rife, the stats are so high, yet central government is not putting no program or curriculum in schools to teach children it's okay to be a Muslim, or having a wear the niqab day, in schools, or wear a thobe day, or etc., etc. The fact that we are being vilified is more of a reason why our people must get involved in the political system, in the political process, and then only then you can challenge the status quo. If we are sat on the outside, we can never be able to go in there and say what needs to be said and represent. And it is an uphill task, without a shadow of a doubt. If anyone says it's an easy task, it might not happen this general election. It might not happen for 10 general elections. But like we said before we started to record, it's our job to plant the seeds for our future generation. And inshallah, we might not see it, but our future generation may see. A very famous quote comes to mind. Honorable men are men who plant trees in the shade of which they will never sit.
Absolutely.
And this is what we are doing here. We're planting trees in the shade that we may never sit.
That's where sincerity comes across.
Absolutely.
That you're doing something which you will not benefit from. Yeah. And when you're canvassing on the doorsteps in Whole Green especially, what are people's sentiments? What is it that they are most concerned about?
Well, look, in my particular area, and this is kind of a personal survey. So in 2019, when I was part of the general election supporting the independent candidate in Whole Green, a lot of the people were saying, look, Shakeel, we support you. We support everything you're doing, but we have to get the Tories out. We have to get the Tories out. It was more an emphasis in 2019 about getting the Tories out. Now, on the doorstep, whether it's Conservative, whether it's Labour, they are saying no, get them both out. We want independent candidates. And alhamdulillah, with my stance in the community and with the fact that I'm very well known on these community issues, I'm getting received very graciously. I'm knocking doors without even me introducing. People are saying, we know you, we remember you. So the response is very good. People are very fed up at the door. They are very hurt at the door. The fact that they've indigenously supported Labour Party, our communities have, and Labour Party has just completely done a U-turn on them, not only on ethics or morals, even, on major issues like when Keir Starmer was appointed, the first thing he did was do a U-turn on the Kashmir issue. Yeah. And the largest Kashmiri community outside of Kashmir resides in the city of Birmingham. Yeah. So that should show you what these people are and what they actually stand by.
Okay, would you say things have changed now, where traditionally inner city Muslim areas in Birmingham or other cities, even like Bradford and so forth, they were traditionally Labour supporters, and Labour Party took the support for granted. And there was a joke that you could put any old dummy there with a Labour rosette, they would get elected because of the blind support that the Muslim communities had been given to the Labour Party. Would you say that's changing now?
That's absolutely changing, 100% changing. And what we must remember, it's not only the Labour Party who's to blame. There are individuals within our community who have some sort of lifelong allegiance with Labour Party and don't speak. They're completely silent, even though when the Iraq war happened, they didn't speak. With Keir Starmer saying that Palestinians should be starved of water, electricity and food, they still don't speak. So the problem is with Labour Party. Also, the problem is within our people within our community who cause fitna and fasad by spreading and pushing a narrative that completely goes against our people. Like if you're a trustworthy person in the community, but you're supporting
Community
Labour,
leaders.
yeah, and you're supporting Labour, and then people who trust you are following you based on what you're saying, but you're asking them to follow Labour only because you're interested in a political position or financial incentives. So I believe that even the brotherly vote, I believe that when I ask people on the door,
Surely that must be out of the window now. The young generation.
yeah, so this is what I'm saying. The brotherly vote is actually being broken because younger generations are voting based on merit. And this is my stance.
Or who's popular on social media.
Well, not only who's popular, because otherwise there's a lot more popular people. It's about who they have conviction in, who they know will not, just join the mainstream media once they're elected or join the mainstream narrative. What's most important you have to remember is our next generation of voters are voting on merit. They are voting on people who are actually been there for the community, spoke for the community. They're not interested in chacha na putra ya uncle na putra. They're not interested in that no more. Yeah. They want people based on merits. And when I'm knocking the door, I'm not asking people to vote for me. I'm saying vote for whoever you think is the best candidate based on merit and don't do it blindly. When you buy a car, you would do a HP check on the car. You would make sure it's history. You would find out how many owners, how much mileage. And that's why I urge every single voter to do. Check who's your candidate. Check what he's done for you. Is he going to be elected and just be another yes man? Or is he going to actually go in and voice your concerns in the corridors of power? And alhamdulillah, one example of that is who's on this podcast as well is my dear brother Ahmed Yaqub, who I supported unequivocally in the mayoral election. And within 4 weeks, he gave Labour a right good lesson where they only won by 1,000 votes majority. That is nothing. Yeah. That for Labour is nothing. And that, I think, was the biggest earthquake and political earthquake that was made because they realized that the trend is changing.
Definitely.
And only yesterday, we had information that Labour has actually upgraded the Hall Green seat as one of the battleground seats, like Ladywood, like Jodie McIntyre's seat in Yardley. So I believe that this is a base that we're building. I don't know what's going to happen at the election. We are here for the next several elections, inshallah. And for us, it's more about empowering our youth to get onto the front line. Remember that you don't need to be a yes man to represent your people. As long as you're in touch with your people, you understand their issues, their problems, their sentiments, you can be a voice for them.
One of the advantages that Ahmed Yaqub has got in his constituency, he's the only main independent candidate challenging the Labour Party. But unfortunately, I can't say that about your particular ward because there is another independent who is chasing that victory against the Labour Party. And there's a risk that you may just hand that victory over to the incumbent, the Labour Party candidate, because you're splitting the independent vote up.
Yeah, look, without saying any names, for people who know me, know that I've never been part of any political party. I have no allegiances with anyone other than my people. And unfortunately, after we announced 4 weeks, these sudden people have come out of nowhere. Doing background checks on them, their family's heavily involved with Labour. Their family has been Labour for the last 30 years. When people like the likes of Salma Yaqub, under respect, were challenging Labour many, many years ago, it was these same people who were, going against people like Sister Salma. So I would say do your research on who it is, because the Labour Party is very divisive and they play very dirty games. If you were to imagine if there's an independent candidate going up against a Labour candidate, the easiest way to damage that independent candidate's cause is to set up more independent candidates who previously have had lifelong Labour affiliations.
So you're alleging dirty tricks where Labour Party is implanting independent people.
I definitely believe there's something sinister at play. I don't want to actually, physically, blame someone for something, but the evidence is in front of you. You know, every single one of you should look at the evidence. Who is Shakeel Afsar? Who is the other candidate? What has Shakeel Afsar been doing? What has the other candidate or his family or his brothers, for that matter, been doing in the last 16, 17 days? When did they resign from Labour? Why did they resign from Labour? So for me, you know, my aim and fight is against the Labour Party incumbent thoroughly. This is why I started this mission. This is why in 2019, when we spoke briefly, you knew my position. I believe that I'm going to unseat thoroughly from the Labour Party, or I'm going to die trying, inshallah.
And have you not tried to reach out to your political rivals in the independent?
We have, quite rightly, because of somebody who has community concerns. The last thing we want is to split the vote. So TMV, the Muslim vote, contacted us and wanted to conduct a straw poll, which is basically a survey, independent survey, to see who the constituents want. We categorically agreed. So, and I'm still on your podcast agreeing that I'm still happy to sit down, because the last thing that we want to do is misguide our community and have two independent candidates, because it defeats the objective. My mission is not to break Labour's majority, as other candidates have said. My mission is to unseat the Labour Party candidate.
And you believe you can do that?
I believe with the will of Allah and the backing of the people, you know, we can do that. And whether that's going to be at this general election or the next general election or when, we are fighting to win. We are not fighting, as some of the other candidates have said, and this brings back to the sinister plot of Labour, is that we don't mind losing. I mind losing. Yeah,
Obviously, you're not going to do all this effort and spend time, money and resources just to break a majority,
bearing in mind,
or for entertainment purposes only.
Bearing in mind, I'm funding my own campaign myself.
Yeah.
I don't think the other candidates can say that, because quite rightly, the GoFundMe pages, again, adding to the evidence of this sinister plot that is employed by Labour. And if Labour under Tony Blair can go into Iraq and kill 1 million Iraqis, or if people like Keir Starmer in 2023 can sit on the LBC and say Palestinians should be starved of water, electricity and food, but then support the Ukraine issue, it begs to, you know, bring to the people's attention how dirty Labour Party can behave, and how they will employ tactics to do whatever to protect their seats and their political interests.
Anything you'd like to say to the Indian diaspora community living in Hall Green, who may have seen you protesting against Hindutva ideology and protesting in that cinema? You know, they may have concerns that may not, you know, be comfortable with you as their MP.
Well, look, for us, we have never been against the people of India. Our issue has always been with the administration and the government, and everyone knows the Modi fascist government is a extremist government who disproportionately affect anyone who's not on the same level as them. I do stand against Hindutva.
But they're a democratically elected government.
So was Hitler. So was Hitler a democratically elected leader. So that means nothing, because the fact is, we will stand against Hindutva extremists. We will stand against LGBT extremists. I even, to a point, will stand against Muslim extremists. But what you said, that he's democratically elected, and my response was that Hitler was also the democratic leader who was elected, and look what he did. So the point being is, I would urge to our Hindu constituents, our Indian constituents, our Sikh constituents, that I'm here to be a voice for all. I will stand against any form of extremism, and I will advocate for any community. A lot of my Hindu brothers in our community, they love me to bits, because they actually completely categorically disagree with the Hindutva extremist narrative, you know, and they actually are standing side by side, shoulder to shoulder. And even our Sikh brothers in the Kisan movement, you know, they're very much in line with us, because we have never been against the general public of India, whether they're Hindus, whether they're Buddhas, whether they're Sais, whatever they are. Our issue has always been against the administration, and will always be against the administration.
Shakeel Afsar, thank you so much for coming on our program, and we wish you all the best. And I know you've probably have got so many sleepless nights ahead, because a lot of time is being invested in this election campaign. There's not long to go, but I'm sure you're utilizing every waking moment.
Well, look, I have had sleepless nights since 2019. So when I decided on this mission and this calling, because prior to 2019, I was a property developer. I didn't care what was going on around me. I was not on social media. I didn't even know certain names of certain political people. But when I did get involved, alhamdulillah, it was like a switch. When I went into that school, with 20 sisters and realized these sisters whose first language is not English and they wear the veil are being vilified in such a disgusting manner, it just flipped. And I went from being somebody who was never active to being somebody who's very active. And inshallah, I enjoy it. I get a lot of satisfaction knowing that I'm helping our community, I'm voicing their concerns. And I will continue to do so, whether it's Palestine, whether it's Kashmir, whether it's protecting age appropriateness, whether it's Islamophobia, whether it's challenging political elites like Labour or Conservative. We believe that this is our calling, and inshallah we will empower the rest of our generations to do the same as well. Inshallah.
Jazakallah. May Allah bless you. And
Thank
inshallah, no doubt, this conversation will continue.
Inshallah. I hope so.
Jazakallah.
Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.